pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Welcome, Transformation Talk Radio listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart, and I am the pushy broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where we share advice and support from experts in addiction and recovery. This is the second half of the hour this morning in Seattle, and I have another great guest to share with you. This is a woman who talks about empowerment from a whole different perspective. Let's talk about finding our voice, knowing that there's something inside of you that has to come out and has never been there before. We want you to understand what it's like to have true freedom to express yourself, to know yourself, and to be heard. So I decided to get an expert. And this also is a woman who deals with women over 40, who helps them find their voice, sometimes for the first time in their lives. So let me tell you about Barb. Okay. Barb Pastuszko. Did I say that right, Barb? There
Beautiful.
we go. Barb Pastuszko is a certified life coach. She works with women over 40 who seek professional guidance in moving away from the overwhelm and the ordinary. I love that. We always want to move away from the ordinary, and they want to move into a personal place of power and a peak state. She works with each of her clients as a team to discover what stops them from achieving their goals. I love to hear this. I want to hear about her personal experiences that helped her get to this place in life. The Pushy Broad from the Bronx and Recovery Recharged welcomes Barb Pastuszko. Good morning, Barb. How are you?
Good morning, Ellen. I am fabulous and so excited to get onto my favorite topic.
That's so wonderful. Okay, so let's go back a little bit and talk to us a little bit how that started. When did you notice that you were losing a part of yourself? What happened?
I think it was quite a few years ago, probably right after I had my first child, my daughter. A lot of, of course, women go through all these hormonal challenges, but we also had, and I just discovered this now and kind of put a title on it, a lot of financial trauma in our lives that started around that time. And I just started to slowly disappear. All I did was just focus. All I could do was just focus on my new baby and with my head down. And I just, all of a sudden, I just kind of lost a little bit of myself.
So what you're saying to me is, I understand the involvement with a new baby. Obviously, that is all encompassing, no question. But despite everything, or maybe because all the tumultuous situation was happening around you, instead of rising up, you imploded. Would you say that would be a good word for it?
That is actually a very, very good word. I just, for some reason, I guess maybe it was myself protecting me. There were a lot of health issues that had started at that time that I only discovered later on in my life, that I had I do have an autoimmune disease, and I believe that also started at that time as well. But of course, it was never discovered. And so, yeah,
So you just went inside yourself. Yes.
I went small.
And well, you went small, you became more mute, right? And almost disengaged from the rest of the world, right? So there's
pretty much
there is an implosion, so to speak. How many women out there are feeling that way? I want you to really, really listen to what's going on in your lives. Are you taking a back seat? Are you not speaking up? Are you letting things
Mhm.
go by? Are you internalizing your anxiety or your angers or your fears the way Barb is describing? So, number one, how did you recognize this? And number two, how did you begin to come out of it? So, one step at a time. How'd you recognize it?
I only recognized it very recently as late or early, and then it's never too late, but around 2020, when the whole world shut down, was kind of when I was let go from my job. It was like, oh my goodness, I'm at the age that I am at. When we come out of this horrific time, what's going to happen? What am I supposed to do? And then I realized that I can't do what I've been doing. And that's when I really decided to go on a personal journey of just discovery of why I've been feeling the way I have, and why I couldn't speak up for myself, that I just decided to stay in the background. So I think that's kind of when it started, that I really started to realize that I needed to change.
You know, the pandemic has been, of course, a life-changing event, right? And it is not
Mhm.
only recorded in history, but it has changed every single one of us across the planet. Sometimes people being in their own state and being on their own and being in our isolation is an
Mhm.
evolving event, because we have to take a look and see who we are, what we're doing, and the
Mhm.
situation itself has forced us to make great changes in our lives. So we can decide whether or not we want to sink or swim. But the one thing we do know is that we can't do what we did before, whatever that means.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, as horrific as that time was, it was a life-changing moment for me of complete self-discovery. And it was a good thing. It woke me up. It brought me out.
That's after a long time. So, I mean, because you had your first baby a while ago, and it has
Mhm.
taken you, what, a couple of decades to find your voice?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I did have a second child in that regard too, and that's a whole other trauma with regards to that time period, but it just exacerbated. So yes, from the moment I had my first child, my daughter, to the point in 2020 where I thought things needed to change. Yeah, that was a long time to be inside instead of
A very long
out.
time to be inside. But as we know, you now have made the change. And I want you to tell us right now how
Mhm.
what values are most important to you, and how do they influence your decisions and actions now that you have your voice?
Well, for me, what is valuable to me is loyalty, respect, kindness, and I wish. I mean, bless his heart, my husband was like my best supporter, and he advocated for me all the time. But I wish I would have shown kindness to myself, and I wish I would have given myself, Barb, that respect that I know that I deserved. But at that time, I felt that I didn't. And I gave it to others. I was always giving out to others because that has always been a passion of mine, is to be of service to others. So yeah, for some reason, I couldn't give it to myself at that point in time.
So it's about loving ourselves. And actually, this is the major topic for us now. And I want every woman out there to understand how serious this is. And you're a great caregiver. You may be a great mother. You may be a great partner,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to be a great advocate for yourself. Your
Oh, yes.
kindness, the consideration, the love, affection, and attention has to be directed inward. It's extremely important for that to happen. So tell us what topics you're most passionate about now that you have your voice, and what topics you advocate for.
For me, it is, I mean, I advocate for myself now. Topics for me at the high point is health and wellness for sure, and not just physical health and wellness, but mental wealth and health and wellness, wealth too, but health and wellness, and just state of mind, making sure that I'm passionate for honoring your own boundaries, believing in yourself, and just self-care. And I think at this point in my life, in other women's lives at this stage of their lives, self-care, great mindset, and knowing that this is not the end. This is just the beginning. It's like you're starting over from scratch because if you have children, they're leaving the house or they have already left the house. And now you can start fresh. The world is your oyster, as they say.
Absolutely. There's also something to be said for that, because we need you to understand, all of you out there, that you're not alone. And that everybody is going through some kind of rebirth. And the idea of reinvention is constant in our lives. Change is good. It is always good. But maybe in the beginning, it's a little fearful. So the clients that you speak to, what kinds of fears and obstacles do they say they encounter when they want to be able to express more of who they are?
The biggest fear that I have come across is that they don't believe that they can have what they want. And they don't believe that that they are capable of getting themselves to that point, and that they're not deserving. And that's a little bit, it's a little bit of what I thought, that, oh, well, I'm not, who am I to say I'm capable of doing this? Like, yes, this other person has that, but no, not me. And it's that lack of self-confidence. And maybe it's because they have been stifled over the years, because they've been so focused on partner and family and just doing what they needed to do career-wise just to get by, that they've just lost that. But I really push for that self-care, that health and wellness, to get you through this part of your life now with vitality.
And a renewed energy and a renewed sense of purpose. Yes, always.
Yes.
So there are many reasons why women lose their voice. Many, many reasons. For you, it was focusing on family and focusing on the new baby and focusing on that situation. But what other reasons do you think women have difficulty and lose their voice?
Sometimes they can become so codependent on their partner. And which was a little bit like when we were going through financial trauma, I really became codependent on my husband, my partner. And I couldn't deal with everything. And so I just let him take over, which in turn was not a great thing, because that's where I lost a little bit of me. But I believe that just life can kind of get you down in a way that you lose that sense of purpose, you lose that power. And it could be because you've lost a job and you lose your confidence. There's so many, you could be going through a health challenge, and that just becomes all consuming, and you can't see beyond that challenge to when you will be better. So there's so many things, and we could dig deeper into that. There's just so many things that can have women lose that sense of purpose and power.
Well, it's very important for us to realize that. And one of the other ways, obviously, is if you are in an abusive relationship. If you are living with an active addict or an alcoholic that is trying to gaslight you or make you feel as if you are less than. If you are living in a situation where you have a partner or someone that you're living with that is representing a hostile environment for you and you feel helpless to get out, all of those things are diminishing you. and understand that Barb can help with all of these things. So Barb, tell us where we can find you.
I can be found on Facebook under my name, Barb Pastuszko, and on Instagram at Best of Barb Wellness. I'm also on LinkedIn at Barb Pastuszko as well. So those are the three places at this point in time.
Wonderful. So it's Best of Barb Wellness. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Terrific. So how do we begin in the process when we find our voice? How do you suggest women communicate their thoughts and feelings and express themselves as time goes on? How does their voice get stronger over time?
With practice, number one. And I mean, practicing could be in the beginning when you're not as confident. You can just practice in the mirror to say positive affirmations just about yourself. I love you. I believe in you. You know, these are very, very strong affirmations that you can start to use for yourself. In other ways, you can take if you're in a work environment, you can take something that you've been wanting to do or to say, and dare I say it, step out of the comfort zone and go ahead and say it. I mean, what have you got to lose at that point? You're either going to get a good for you, or you're going to get something negative. And so what? So then you just move on, right? I mean, and in relationships, for me, it was talking to my husband and explaining my feelings. For those who are obviously not in that type of environment, it is to just find someone or an organization or anything that will help, even if it's just talking in the beginning until you can find a solution. So it's the more you use your voice, the more empowered you feel and the more you can move forward.
When I work with women in the empowerment arena, I also suggest to them that small accomplishments are big accomplishments.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so give us an example of how you started and what small accomplishments were important to you.
So for me, every time I stepped out of my comfort zone, and especially when I started, I mean, for me, the biggest thing was becoming a life coach, because I knew that I'd have to put myself out there. I would have to air my dirty laundry, so to speak, and everything that I was keeping inside, I would have to let out, because in order to help other women, you have to be able to walk the talk, so to speak. So for me, it was important to work on myself. And then once I did that, I would be able to help other women do the same. So it was very key for me to speak at networking events or on podcasts. I mean, my biggest fear was speaking, and my very, very first video took me about 2.5 hours to get it right, air quote, get it right, before I actually posted it. And I wasn't talking as loudly and as confidently as I am now. Oh no, I was very quiet. And my first topic was fear. It was on fear. And so I know I've come a long way. I've made great strides. So I encourage all women to just go and just do it.
And small accomplishments could be so many different things, really. I mean, so many different things. Like, you now decide where you want to go for dinner. Okay. If you didn't maybe know before, but now you're making a choice. You decide what movie is on the television. You decide where you want to go next. You decide what you want to wear without anybody else's approval. You decide what the day is going to be like. You set aside time to do something just for yourself, like get your nails done or go for a massage or go get your hair done, or do the most important things that you have neglected, like doctor's appointments, and doing the things that make you feel good, like Barb said, self-care, the smallest accomplishments. And she also said something very powerful, that either in the beginning of the day and the end of your day, which is something that I know Barb does, and the Pushy Broad does. We do our gratitude list and we do our positive affirmations, and we say things like, I love myself today. I care about myself today. And more importantly, it's okay for me to care about myself first, right?
Absolutely. When you are open and ready to receive, great things are going to come your way.
So let's go back a little bit to what you said, because there's that very big word there that prevents us from doing what we need to do. And let's focus just for a few minutes on that topic of fear. First, how did it manifest itself with you? What happened physically or mentally in your head to make you so afraid? What happened?
I hid. I avoided things. I avoided conflict. I stayed small. I didn't go out for the things that I wanted, whether it be a new career or a new job, whether it would just be to voice my opinion. I just stayed in my fear. I feared being rejected. I feared failing, and in some aspects, I still, that fear, Mr. Fear, still comes up, and fear is good. Fear is just excitement on pause, is what I believe right now. It is okay to feel the butterflies in your stomach, the sweaty palms. That's okay. That's okay. That means that something good is about to happen and that you are going to be doing something great. So fear can be a positive tool if we look at it that way, instead of looking at it as something negative in our lives.
Well, there's a combination of things, because, of course, fear indicates sometimes trepidation or an anxiety of things that haven't come yet, unfortunately. But fear is also a great motivator, because if we're scared enough of something, then we'll act on it. And sometimes we need that little kick in the pants to say, okay, we'd better do this, or the consequences are not something that I want to live with. But there is a difference between fear, anxiety, and excitement. And we have to understand where that goes, because the one thing fear should not be is debilitating and paralyzing, so that we stop in our tracks and do nothing. So how did you begin to break away? And tell me a little bit what do you say to yourself about overcoming those fears on a daily basis? Because they don't go away. We have to face them and deal with them. So how do you do that?
I honestly, I just face them. I break my fear down into little bits and pieces, and I take one bit at a time, and I work through that. And if I don't get through that, that's okay. I either continue working on that portion of it, or I move on to the next bit. But I am learning that fear is my friend, because I have felt the good feeling when I get to that other side and I actually accomplish it. And I can just stop and say, wow, I can't believe I just did that. Like, why was I so afraid? And that's what gets me through, is knowing what's on the other side, that the thing that I want to have, or the person that I want to be. That is what gets me through, step by step, through that fear and out of my comfort zone.
Well, Barb said some very, very important things. And one of those things is actually a couple of those things are actually therapeutic approaches. When we chunk it down, we always think, oh my God, I'm so afraid and I'm so afraid. But when we realize that if that's all we think, we will never go past it. So the first question I tell my clients to ask is, it's not enough to say, I am afraid. It's not enough because you always are up against that point. The first idea is to break down the fear. You can say that you are afraid, but you have to define what the fear is. And sometimes that takes a little while. But once you define what the fear is, then you have to break it down and deal with every single component of it. And when you don't have this massive, big black cloud and you're moving the cloud away and you're making it small, little tiny clouds, they're easier to deal with. So that is a process called chunking it down. And the other thing she said was going through things and saying to yourself already, I already know that I'm going to feel great in the outcome. It's focusing on the reward of feeling good rather than focusing on what you have to go through to get there. Because by focusing on the reward, it propels us to get there faster. So that absolutely is a great way to make things better for us. You have become a great coach. You are helping women over 40 find their voice, which is a key component. You help them do that through personal experiences. We have about a minute left. Give us about 30 seconds of what you want to leave us with and share with all of us out there.
I just want to let women out there know that they are all of value. And they're all capable of doing anything that they set their minds to. It's just a matter of believing it yourself. I believe that all of us women out there can do great things if they have that self-belief and self-confidence. And I believe in each and every one of us out there. We are stronger together.
That's right. We are stronger together. And thank you, Barb. I am very thrilled. It is a wonderful thing to know that you've gotten through so well. Go find Barb and start working with her at Best of Barb Wellness. You can write her at bestofbarbwellness.com. You can find her on Facebook, and she will be able to help you find your voice. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening, and remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York.